Hotties love our show. He's romantic and me. We will do this show every Monday. Won't send you on a search, but we gotta say. Scrolls with such as teasers. Hotties love the show. Oh, hotties love the show. Well, to see their hotness. Hotties love the show. Hotties love the show. To love our hotties.
All right, welcome back to Hotties of a Show. And tonight we're dealing with a show that apparently said, what if we traumatize the audience but make it sexy? Because that is basically what American Horror Story did. This show gave us haunted houses, killer clowns, evil nuns, vampires, witches, ghosts, serial killers, asylums, cults, apocalypse, nonsense, and enough screaming to wake the dead. But at the same time, it also kept throwing beautiful women at the screen like it was personally trying to distract you from the fact that none of the plot made any sense anymore. And honestly, it worked. You'd be sitting there trying to keep up with who's dead, who's alive, who's possessed, who's secretly evil, who got resurrected, who switched identities, who's hallucinating, and who's somehow still walking around after being murdered 3 episodes ago. And then some gorgeous woman shows up and now your concentration is completely shot. That is the real American Horror Story experience. This show really had every category covered too. Elegant and haunted? Yup. Cold and dangerous? Absolutely. Sweet looking but probably cursed? Of course. Looks like she'd destroy your life and somehow make you feel bad for inconveniencing her? They have plenty of that. That's what made this show so ridiculous. It never settled for just one type. Every season had its own brand of beautiful insanity. Sometimes it was gothic glamour, sometimes it was witchy power, sometimes it was bloody lipstick and bad intentions, sometimes it was she clearly belongs in a nightmare, but I'm still listening. And that's why this is such a great show for Hotties of a Show. Because underneath all the blood, misery, torture, murder, crying, ritual sacrifice, and complete emotional collapse, the series was absolutely loaded. So tonight, we're going season by season and giving these women their due. Because if American Horror Story was going to drag us through hell, the least we can do is acknowledge that it made hell look incredibly attractive. Sorry about the pictures, but I definitely think I'll have a problem having the videos in the background, and YouTube will do something about it. From the first season Murder House, we have Hayden. Because she had that exact kind of beauty that makes trouble look glamorous. She wasn't soft, sweet, or safe. Hayden had that polished, dangerous, emotionally chaotic kind of hotness. We already knew she was going to make everything worse, and somehow that made her even more watchable. She had that sharp face, that intensity, and that I am absolutely not here to make anybody comfortable energy. In a season full of ghosts, secrets, and people spiraling, Hayden stood out because she felt like pure disruption wrapped in a gorgeous package. She was the kind of character who didn't just enter a scene, she poisoned the air in it, and I mean it as a compliment. Then we have Nora Montgomery. Nora Montgomery had that tragic, delicate, old Hollywood haunted doll beauty that fit Murder House perfectly. She looked like sadness in satin. Everything about her felt elegant, broken, and ghostly in the prettiest way possible. She wasn't given modern attitude or sarcasm. She was giving sorrow, fragility, and that eerie kind of beauty that feels like it belongs in a candlelit hallway at midnight. The voice, the styling, the sadness in her face, all of it worked. Nora wasn't a loud type of attractive. She was that kind that sneaks up on you because the whole aesthetic is so strong and so sad that you can't look away. We may have young Moira. Young Moira was one of those characters the show knew people were going to react to instantly. She had that sultry, classic, provocative energy that the whole season leaned into hard. She represented temptation, fantasy, and all the mess that comes with both. What made her work wasn't just the obvious sex appeal. It was how self-aware the character felt. Young Moira knew exactly what effect she had, and that confidence gave the whole performance extra weight. She wasn't trying to be coy. She was there to be seen, remembered, and cause problems. That kind of full commitment allure is a huge reason she became one of the most memorable women from the first season. All right, and next we have season 2, Asylum. The first one's Grace. Grace had that soft, wounded, romantic kind of beauty that hit hard in a season as bleak as Asylum. She looked like somebody who had been through hell and somehow still kept a little light in her. That always lands. She had this very natural prettiness that didn't feel overworked or overstyled, which made her stand out even more inside the grimness of Briarcliff. Grace brought tenderness to a season built on cruelty, and that made her memorable. She had a quiet magnetism. You didn't need giant speeches or flashy outfits. Her whole appeal came from that mix of sadness, warmth, and the feeling that she was still reaching for something better. Teresa Morrison. Teresa Morrison was only around briefly, but she absolutely counts because she had that fun, reckless horror movie opening scene energy that sticks in your head. She walked in with confidence, looked good, had attitude, and felt like exactly the kind of woman who thinks she can handle a haunted place, until the haunted place proves otherwise. There was something very direct about her appeal. She didn't have the ghostly elegance of Nora or the tragic softness of Grace. Teresa felt more immediate, more modern, more this is going to be a very bad decision, but she looks great making it. Sometimes that's all you need for somebody to leave an impression. Then from season 3 Coven, you had Madison Montgomery. Pure bratty, glamorous, high maintenance chaos. Loved it. And that's exactly why she worked. She had that mean girl movie star beauty where every look came with attitude and every sentence sounded like it might cut somebody. So hot. She was polished, pretty, rude, and completely aware of all three. Madison never asked to be liked. She expected to be noticed. It's a different kind of power. In a season full of witches with huge personalities, Madison still managed to feel like one of the sharpest. She was stylish, spoiled, vicious, and ridiculously pretty when doing it. That combination is lethal on TV. Then we have Misty Day. Misty Day had a completely different appeal. She was all swamp magic. Stevie Nicks records, barefoot witch enchantment, and soft little smiles hiding strange power. Missy didn't feel polished. She felt earthly, dreamy, and a little wild, like she stepped out of a foggy Louisiana field carrying secrets and herbs. That vibe made her beautiful in one way no one else in Coven really was. She had gentleness without weakness, weirdness without awkwardness, and that mystical, untouched by normal life kind of charm. Misty's the kind of character with a vibe, does as much work as the face, and the vibe was incredible. And then we have Zoe Benson. Zoe Benson had that clean, fresh, classic young lead beauty that grounded Coven. She looked like the kind of girl horror and supernatural stories love to center. Expressive eyes, softness in the face, but enough backbone underneath to carry the madness. Zoe's appeal wasn't built on giant attitude or heavy glamour. It was built on sincerity. She felt real inside all those witchy chaoses, and that made her easy to lock onto. She had a very straight-on kind of prettiness, the kind that doesn't need tricks or drama. And because the season kept putting her in emotional, intimate, and dangerous situations, that grounded beauty stayed front and center. Now for season 4, Freak Show, we have Maggie Esmeralda. Maggie Esmeralda had that old school grifter beauty that fit Freak Show perfectly. She looked like she belonged in a faded poster or an old carnival ad, all mystery and smirking eyes. There was something sly about her from the start, and the slyness made her more interesting than if she'd just been straightforwardly pretty. She had edge, charm, and that traveling showwoman vibe where you know she's not telling you everything. Maggie's beauty came with hustle. That's what made her memorable. She wasn't delicate, she wasn't innocent, she felt clever, slippery, and fun to watch. Then we had Alice. Alice had that glamorous, tragic side character beauty that works so well in American Horror Story. She looked like a soft memory from another life. Somebody beautiful enough to haunt a man long after she was gone. There was elegance to her, but it wasn't cold. It had sadness in it. That's what makes these brief American Horror Story appearances still matter. Sometimes a character only needs a little screen time if the look and mood hit right, and Alice definitely had that kind of effect. For season 5, Hotel, we have the Countess. The Countess is one of the biggest slam dunk entries on a list like this. High fashion predator energy from head to toe. Every entrance, every robe, every stare, every ridiculous glamorous moment, all of it screamed luxury and danger. She wasn't just beautiful, she was styled like beauty itself had turned vampiric and moved into a haunted hotel. The Countess had that impossible level of confidence where she looked like she expected the room to adore her and fear her at the same time. And honestly, the room should have. She was elegant, lethal, icy, sensual, and completely unforgettable. For season 6, Roanoke, we have Scott Hush. Scott Hush had primal, supernatural woods at night beauty. She didn't feel human in the usual sense, which is exactly what made her attractive. She felt ancient, dangerous, and tied to something older than everybody else in the season. The look, the stillness, the sense that she could destroy you or enchant you without changing expression much, that all worked. Scott Hush was not approachable beauty. She was myth beauty, the kind that feels half warning, half invitation. That's a very strong lane in a show like this. Then we have Shelby Miller. Shelby had that emotional, everyday pretty quality that Roanoke needed. She wasn't a grand gothic figure. She felt grounded, believable, and human in a season built around performance layers and terror. That gave her a different type of beauty weight. Shelby looked like someone you could actually know, which made everything happen to her feel more immediate. There was softness in her, but also frustration, fear, and exhaustion. And that emotional transparency made her more watchable. She felt lived in. Sometimes that's more effective than flashy. Then we have Sophie Green. Sophie Green brought that younger fandom era, modern horror girl energy into Roanoke. She had that bright, curious, this is a terrible idea, but I'm going with it anyway vibe that works beautifully in horror. Sophie's appeal came from the mix of enthusiasm and vulnerability. She felt current in a season that was playing with older ghost story structures. She had easy charm, and because she felt so eager and alive, it made her very easy to root for. Sometimes beauty lands harder when it comes with excitement, and Sophie definitely had that. Then you have season 7, Colt. Then you have Winter Anderson. Winter had that pale, strange political chaos pixie look the season leaned into so well. She felt fragile and dangerous at the same time, like she might drift away or drag you into something awful depending on the hour. That contradiction gave her a lot of appeal. She wasn't styled in a way that made her feel ghostly but modern, damaged but still defiant. Winter wasn't warm, she was compelling. There's a difference, and that difference matters. She had one of those faces that's always looking like it was holding on to private pain and private mischief at once. Serena Belinda. Serena Belinda was a quick hit, but she absolutely had that polished on camera beauty that makes sense for a media character. She looked composed, shiny, and very aware of how to present herself. That matters even in a brief role. Serena had the kind of face that show could use for instant impact. Pretty, controlled, and camera ready. And because Colt's such an ugly season emotionally, those little flashes of poise and gloss stand out even more. She felt sleek in a world full of nerves and grimes. Then you have season 8, Apocalypse. The first one's Emily. Emily had that calm, polished, end of the world elegance that Apocalypse gave his bunker characters. She looked neat, composed, and beautiful in a setting designed to crush everyone's spirit. That contrast always works. Emily's appeal came from how put together she felt in the world falling apart. She had softness without looking weak, and she fit that strange, polished apocalypse aesthetic really well. There's something attractive about somebody who still carries grace while surrounded by dread, and Emily absolutely fit that mold. Then you had Mallory. Mallory was one of the prettiest builds in the entire franchise because she was all restraint, light, and hidden power. She didn't stomp into scenes demanding attention, she glowed into them. Mallory's beauty felt serene, but it was never empty. You could feel something stronger underneath it from the start. It makes a huge difference. She had that angelic, composed surface, but the season kept hinting that she was much more than she appeared. Beautiful characters become unforgettable when they also feel quietly important, and Mallory had that in full. You have season 9, 1984, Brooke Thompson's first. Brooke had that all-American final girl, pretty but tough energy that 1984 needed right in the center. She looked clean, classic, and deceptively soft at first, which made it even better when the season kept revealing more steel in her. Brooke was attractive in that very direct way where her face lands instantly, but the staying power comes from how much grit she grows into. She felt vulnerable at the beginning, then resilient, then flat out dangerous. Watching that shift made her even hotter. Montana. Montana was pure cardio crazed 80s menace and sex appeal. She was camp, aggression, neon, and attitude all at once. There was nothing restraining about Montana. And thank God for that. She didn't just enter scenes, she kicked through them. The hair, the energy, the outfits, the eyes, the whole package was working overtime. Montana's beauty was loud in its best way. She was not there to be subtle. She was there to be remembered, and she absolutely was. We have Rita. Rita, or the woman we first know as Rita, had that smart, composed, quietly commanding presence that can make a character instantly more interesting. She looked collected, observant, and like she knew more than everybody else. That kind of restraint is attractive. She didn't need Montana's volume or Brooks' classic final girl framing the lamb. She had something cooler and more self-possessed. Her beauty came with authority, and authority always adds something. Lavinia Richter. Lavinia Richter has old-school wrath, ghost mother elegance. She looked like vengeance in a bridal portrait. There was something very striking about the way the season framed her. Severe, haunted, and deeply tied to the camp's curse. Lavinia wasn't warm or inviting. She was chilling and beautiful at the same time, which is a great American Horror Story combination. The season used her as a symbol as much as a character, and visually, she absolutely worked. Then we had season 10, double feature, Red Tide / Death Valley. If Doris Gardner first, Doris Gardner had that worn down, very human kind of beauty that gets more compelling the more the season hurts her. She wasn't styled like a glamorous genre queen. She looked like a real woman trying to hold it together while everything around her decayed. That realism made her stand out. Doris had vulnerability written all over her, but not in a weak way. In a you can feel her unraveling and it hurts to watch way. Sometimes tenderness and fear can make a character even more memorable, and that was definitely true with Doris. Dr. Leslie Feldman. Lark had one of the coolest looks in the whole double feature era. Edgy, artistic, tattooed, strange, and very comfortable in her own lane. She felt like somebody who had built herself into exactly the person she wanted to be. That's attractive. Didn't rely on softness or polish, she relied on style, confidence, and that slightly underground aura that made her instantly different from everybody else around her. And you have Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart in Death Valley is such a funny entry because she brings that old icon beauty into the season's pulpy alien weirdness. She has that aviator legend glamour, but filtered through American Horror Story's bizarre sci-fi lens. That combination makes her memorable fast. She feels historic and mythic, but also like a woman dropped into a nightmare she never asked for. That blend of poise and confusion works. She carries herself with dignity, and dignity under pressure always lands. And we have Jamie Howard. Jamie Howard had that modern, lively, emotionally readable kind of appeal that gave Death Valley some needed pulse. She felt quick, expressive, and very much part of the youthful ensemble energy in that storyline. Jamie's attractiveness wasn't about gothic mystery or over the top fashion. It was about being alive in the scene, reacting, pushing, questioning, moving. That can be incredibly effective. She felt current in a story full of retro conspiracy weirdness, and that contrast gave her presence. Then we had Kendall Carr. Kendall had that confident, polished, social circle coolness that made her stand out immediately in Death Valley. She looked like someone used to being the center of attention, and that kind of certainly always reads well on camera. Kendall's appeal came from her poise and the way she carried herself, like she expected the world to make room for her. Even when the story gets absurd, she stays visually anchored. That helps a lot in a season like this. Next is New York City. Oops, excuse me. Next is season 11, New York City. Dr. Hannah Wells. Dr. Hannah Wells had one of the strongest combinations in the franchise: intelligence, composure, and beauty that never needed to show off. She looked capable, and that alone goes a long way. Hannah felt adult, centered, and serious in a season full of panic and grief. Her attractiveness came from that steadiness. She carried herself like someone people could lean on, and that kind of presence can be incredibly powerful. She wasn't flashy. She was strong, and that made her stand out. KK. KK had that downtown nightlife coolness New York City used so well. She felt like she belonged in the city after dark, stylish, alert, and just a little hard around the edges. That's a great look for this world. KK's appeal is built on atmosphere as much as face. She feels like cigarette smoke, late night music, and bad decisions in a way that works perfectly for the season. Sometimes a character doesn't need a giant role if the vibe is right, and hers vibe was absolutely right. Alana Delarue. Alana Delarue had the elegant fashion world nightlife queen aura that made her instantly feel expensive. She carried herself with polish and cool self-possession. In a season built on danger, desire, and image, Alana fit beautifully. She wasn't framed as soft, she was framed as poised, sharp, and very much part of the glamorous but threatening world. That combination gives a character immediate visual power, and she definitely had it. And last, we have season 12, Delicate. Anna Victoria Alcott. Anna Victoria Alcott is one of those American Horror Story women whose beauty is tied directly to pressure. She looks polished, successful, camera ready, and like she's one sleepless night away from snapping. That tension work is gorgeous in that award season, expensive clothes, professionally managed way, but a season keeps cracking that image open. That makes her more interesting. She's not just pretty, she's fraying while being pretty, and American Horror Story loves that combination. And then we have Ashley. Ashley is all culty composure, polished smile, and hidden menace. She has that perfectly controlled outer layer that makes the character creepier and more attractive at the same time. Delicate uses women like Ashley almost like moving symbols, and she works because she looks so composed while clearly serving something sinister. Beauty with a smile that feels rehearsed always has a weird power to it, and Ashley absolutely uses that. Ivy Einright. Ivy Einright is one of the strongest visual presences in Delicate. She has that mysterious, stalking, too perfect to trust quality that makes the whole season move differently when she appears. Ivy doesn't feel safe. She feels sleek and eerie. That's a very strong lane. The season frames her as a beautiful problem, and she completely delivers on that. There's something predatory and elegant about her that lingers long after the scene ends. Saya Corbin. Saya Corbin is a polished publicist, power-wrapped in fullest presentation. He has that I know exactly what image I'm trying to sell and exactly how to sell it energy, which makes her incredibly watchable. Sayaban's attractiveness comes from control. She looks composed, expensive, and completely unbothered, even when the world around Anna starts falling apart. American Horror Story loves women who can make manipulation look glamorous. Sayabim is definitely in that tradition. So yeah, when it comes to American Horror Story, one thing this show never struggled with was giving us unforgettable women. No matter how dark it got, no matter how insane the plot got, no matter how much blood, death, screaming, possession, betrayal, ghosts, killers, witches, vampires, and total nightmare fuel they piled onto the screen, this show still kept finding ways to give us women who were beautiful, stylish, magnetic, and impossible not to notice. And that's really what made this one so fun, because American Horror Story never just gave you one type. It gave you elegant. It gave you dangerous. It gave you haunted. It gave you glamorous. It gave you soft, sharp, eerie, seductive, powerful, tragic, and completely unhinged. Every season brought its own flavor, and every woman brought their own energy. Some look like they could hex you. Some look like they could ruin your life. Some look like they belonged in a gothic painting. Some look like they could smile at you while the world burned behind them. Honestly, that's exactly why this show belongs in Highs of a Show conversation. Because under all the horror, all the madness, all the twisted storylines and disturbing imagery, this series was packed with women who left a mark. Not just because they were attractive, but because they had presence. They had style. They had vibe. And to show this over the top, that says a lot. Whether your taste leans more towards the witchy, the classy, the chaotic, the mysterious, the fierce, or the straight up dangerous, American Horror Story has somebody for you. And that's a big reason why, after all these seasons later, the women in the show are still so memorable.